Hello, future engineers, subscribers, viewers, and students. Here is part of session 3, the ending part, lecture. And actually, the principles have been uploaded in Dagler and in YouTube. But I just want to discuss this again for TTH classes. So we have the principle of transmissibility of a force. Consider this rigid body, and we have two forces at A and at B. These forces tend to compress the rigid body. Then in the second situation, the force at A is moved along its line of action and it is now acting at B, and the force at B is moved along its line of action and it is now acting at A, as shown. So in this situation here, the forces tend to stretch the rigid body. Then in the last situation, same case as one initially, but as we move the forces along their lines of action, there will come a time that they will meet, and because the forces are in equilibrium, we can also remove them from the system. In fact, you can also add any number of sets of equilibrium forces to the system without changing the external effect to a rigid body. Now, situations 1, 2, and 3 have the same effect, and the effect is no effect because, take note, the bodies are rigid. So the even if the body is bombarded or hammered, the body is unbreakable, undeformable because it is rigid. So it's like nothing happens. So these three situations have the same effect, and the common effect of the three is the what we call no effect. The reason why there's no effect for cases 1, 2, and 3 because the body is rigid. So therefore, forces have no effect to the rigid body because cases 1, 2, and 3 or situations 1, 2, and 3 have the same effect, that is no effect. Therefore, we can now state the principle of transmissibility of a force. A force may be moved along its line of action without changing its external effect to a rigid body. So a force may be moved along its line of action without changing its external effect on a rigid body. So that's the principle of transmissibility. Of course, do not change the direction. Just move the force, same direction, same inclination, same magnitude along its line of action, and you can do that in any force system. So along with that, I'll discuss principle of moments or the Varigdon's theorem. So consider a force acting at this point with coordinates x1 and y1, and the force is inclined up to the right with an inclination theta as shown. So therefore, the moment of this force about point O, actually point O, it appears as a point here, but actually it is an axis if you draw it in 3 dimensions. So this point here is actually the point of intersection between the axis of rotation and the plane of the force, which is the screen. So if the perpendicular distance of F from O, because moment of the force is simply the product of F, the magnitude of F, and the perpendicular distance, of course, with the sense. So this D here, from this principle here, principle of transmissibility of a force, imagine that this force can be moved anywhere on its line of action and put it here. Imagine that this D here is a wrench and there is a bolt or nut here to be tightened. Then this wrench, when the force is applied here, this is a point of rotation. This moment arm, which is the length of the wrench will rotate clockwise. So that's why, right, if you pull this to the right, up to the right, then this wrench will rotate clockwise. Therefore, the sense of the moment of F about the origin is clockwise. But remember, the positive sense of moment is counterclockwise according to right thumb rule, counterclockwise. But for 2D system, moment may be clockwise or counterclockwise as long as you just assume. Now, if the resulting sign is negative and you assume that the moment about a point or axis is clockwise, then it means it is counterclockwise. Likewise, if you assume that it is counterclockwise and the resulting sign of the moment is negative, so it means it is clockwise. So that's it. So the direct way of computing moment about point O, not necessarily point O, any point, but let's just select point O here, is equal to F times D clockwise. Now, the angle of inclination of this plane, theta, is also the angle between the normal, remember D is the normal or perpendicular to that inclined plane, and the vertical. I already demonstrated this, so I hope that you know that this is theta. The point of intersection between any line and the y-axis is called the point of intersection with the y-axis, and the coordinates of that point would be x is 0 and y is b. The y-intercept is denoted with small letter b. And in this case, this small letter b, considering this right triangle, would be the hypotenuse of this right triangle. The angle between b and d is theta. Therefore, in terms of b, the hypotenuse and theta, this d here is b cosine of theta. This perpendicular distance is b cosine theta. So in terms of the components fx would be f cosine theta. So this is the moment in general of this force about O. Direct formula F times D, and the sense is clockwise as in the figure. When F is resolved into components, then we have F cosine theta, Fx, and Fy is F sine theta. Take note that by principle, F may be removed and replaced with these components. Now, because F can be moved along its line of action, if we move it on the y-axis, then it's like the components are also moved along the line of action, and F this time is represented by its components, horizontal and vertical. From the figure, the vertical component, if extended, passes through the origin, or you can move it along the line of action, so it acts here. So that's why the moment of Fy about O is 0. Fy times 0 moment arm, while the moment of Fx about the origin is Fx horizontal, the moment arm is b vertical, so that's the perpendicular distance, and the sense is again clockwise. So imagine this is the wrench, then you pull that to the right, the wrench will rotate clockwise about the origin. So that's why the moment is F cosine theta times b clockwise. Rearranging, we can write this as F times quantity b cosine theta, and b hypotenuse times cosine theta is d. So it will go back to Fd as this original here. So it is the same. Next, we move the force along its line of action, this time on the x-axis. F is represented by its components Fx and Fy. This time Fx passes through O, so Fx has 0 moment about O. It is only Fy that has moment about O. And this distance is the x-intercept denoted by A. And we have a right triangle again. The hypotenuse is A. So the moment arm of Fy is, or F sine theta is F sine theta times A. And this lever or wrench will rotate clockwise again about O. So it is maintained. So moment is F sine theta times A, or F times quantity A sine theta. And take note that hypotenuse A times sine of theta is equal to opposite. So therefore, this is also D. So it will go back to FD. Now, if the force is not moved, it is placed here, then remember, there are two components, Fx and Fy. Notice that Fx will produce clockwise moment about O, and its moment is Fx, or Fx times y1 clockwise, while the moment of Fy is counterclockwise. So therefore, if we do not move the force in terms of its components at that position, then moment is also Fx times y1 clockwise. So it is treated positive here because the moment of F about the origin is clockwise, minus F sine theta times x1. So Fx times y1 minus Fy times x1. It is also clockwise. MO about F is FD equals Fxy1 minus Fyx1. It is equal to Fxb, or F cosine theta times B, or FD. It's still FD. It is Fy times A, or F sine theta times A, and it is still FD. So we can now state the principle of moments, or the Varignon's theorem, which states that the moment of the resultant about any point is equal to the sum of the moments of its components. So that's the Varignon's theorem. So the moment of the resultant, which is here, there are two components about O, is the same as the sum of the moments of its components. So that's why earlier, when the force is moved here, the components are Fy and Fx, but only Fx has moment about O. So it is Fx times B plus Fy times 0. So Fx times B will reduces to F times D, and the sense is clockwise. Likewise, when the components of force, or when the force is moved on the x-axis here, the moment is Fy times A plus F cosine theta times 0. So it is just F sine theta times A, which is still FD. So that's the Varignon's theorem. I now demonstrate the two principles applied to this problem. So consider a force acting at E. This is the figure. So we can compute this length of BE by similar triangles. Length of BE, because this is the center, 4 and 4. So therefore, if this is 6, then this must be 3 automatically. If not, you may solve this by similar triangles. Length BE as to 4 equals 6 as to 8, then you will get that's 3 meters. So if that is 3 meters, then we have 3 meters, 4 meters, that's a right triangle, therefore the hypotenuse is 5 meters. So if we have a force at E, which is 750 newtons, the moment of this force about C is 750 times perpendicular distance, and the sense is counterclockwise, right? So this is the perpendicular distance. Then if this is theta, the angle between the line perpendicular to that inclined plane and the vertical is also theta. Therefore, considering this right triangle, D is equal to 6 times cosine theta. But what is cosine theta? Cosine theta from this right triangle is 4 over 5. So the perpendicular distance is 6 times cosine theta, and cosine theta 4 over 5. So D is equal to 6 times 4 over 5. So moment of the force about point C is FD, and it is counterclockwise. D is 6 times cosine theta, so F times 6 cosine theta. F is 750, cosine theta is 4 over 5. So from there we can compute the moment of F about C is 3,600 newtons meter counterclockwise. Then if we resolve this force into its components, so the angle that this force makes with the horizontal is also theta. The x component therefore is 750 times cosine of theta to the left, and 750 times cosine theta is 750 times 4 over 5. That is equal to 600 newtons. You can place 600 at E. You can also place it at D as long as the partner is downward, which is 750 times sine theta, and sine theta is 3 over 5. 750 times sine theta, the vertical component, 3 over 5 is 450. And we can put the components here because the line of action of F passes through D, passes through A. So first, let's move it at D. Now, this 750 Newton force is now represented by these two components. For these two components, the 450 Newton component passes through C, so this has no moment. Only 600 has moment, and the moment is 600 times 6, and the sense is counterclockwise, because if we push this to the left, this lever or wrench will rotate counterclockwise about C. So 600 times 6, that's the moment, is 3,600 Newton meter counterclockwise also. Now, if we move F along its line of action at A, these are the components, Fx, which passes through this C this time, so it has no moment, and 450 downward. This has moment about C, and the sense is counterclockwise, because this lever arm, this wrench, will rotate, if you push this downward, will rotate counterclockwise. And therefore, the moment is 450 times 8 counterclockwise. And that is still 3,600 Newton meter counterclockwise. So that's the third way. The last way is going back. Imagine that 600 is to the left, 450 to the right. The moment about C is 600 times 3. That's the moment arm 3. And it is counterclockwise, plus 450 times 4, and it is also counterclockwise. So you add. So 600 times 3 plus 450 times 4 is still equal to 3,600 Newton meter. So additional principle which is used to facilitate analysis later. So that's, you can find this in Digler, but this one you cannot find this because this is an additional principle which is applicable to the one of the problems later. So if we have a pulley here which is smooth, and the tensions on both sides should be the same because the pulley is smooth. Unless this has frictional resistance, then the tension on both sides, on either side, will be different. So considering first frictionless pulley, then let us show that this system, radius of the pulley is R, is equivalent to this system here with the forces applied at C but still parallel. So that's why this T here is applied at C, and this T here is applied at C, and the angle is the same, theta 1, theta 2. So let us show this. So take note that when we show, then make sure that what we do is either an axiom or already a known principle. So this is already known. I can add two forces in equilibrium of magnitude T oppositely directed at C. So the addition of these four systems in equilibrium does not affect the original effect of the system because these two forces are in equilibrium. Remember axiom 3 in statics or in mechanics, that any number of sets of forces in equilibrium may be added to any force system without affecting the effect of the original system, because this is in equilibrium. In fact, you can add many number of force systems in equilibrium, infinite number of force systems in equilibrium without changing the effect, because the resultant of pairs of forces that are in equilibrium is still zero. So that's why you can add. You can also remove. That's vice versa. So that's already fine. Then this time I add T, which is parallel to this, and T opposite to that, also at C. So again, the addition of these two forces in equilibrium does not affect the effect of the original system. Now, can we remove this t here? So that's perpendicular distance. That's perpendicular distance. Can we remove this t which is acting down to the left and this one t acting up to the right? Of course, you cannot remove that because these two forces are not in equilibrium. But it will produce a couple. It will cause rotation of the body, which is, so what's the moment? Equivalent moment. So if we compute the moment of this couple, we call this couple T about C, it is T times R, and it is counterclockwise. Likewise, the moment of this T here about that point, the moment of this T about that point is 0. The moment of this T here about C is 0. But the moment of this T here about C is counterclockwise, and it is T times R. Then if we sum up moment there, because the moment center of a couple is independent of the moment center, meaning to say, if you compute the moment of this couple about any point, the magnitude and the sense remain the same. So it is counterclockwise. The magnitude is TR. So I can now remove these two tension, but replace it with a counterclockwise couple. The magnitude is TR. That's counterclockwise couple. The magnitude is TR. Likewise, we can remove this T here and this T here that are oppositely directed. The moment of this T about C is 0. So only this couple T, this force of the couple T will have a moment about C, and it is T times R. This time the sense is clockwise. Likewise, if we take moment about this point, this T here has moment about that point, and it is T times R clockwise, while the moment of this T here about that point is 0. So we can remove these two, replace it with a couple with the sense clockwise, and the magnitude is TR. Since we have a couple which is clockwise TR and a couple which is counterclockwise TR and a couple which is clockwise TR, you can also remove these two because the net effect is 0. Therefore, what remains would be these two forces acting at C, and these forces are equal and parallel to the original two forces there respectively, which is now this. So that's the proof that the original system, where we have tensions tangent to the pulley, can now be replaced with this equivalent system here. So they are equal. The main reason or objective is that to facilitate the analysis. Then as an additional concept, there are many examples that I uploaded in YouTube and in Dagler also. There are problems there where I solved it using this approach. We have a point and a line. The distance from a point to a line, perpendicular distance of course, is equal to absolute value of ax. This is the general equation of a line. Absolute value of ax1 plus by1 plus c all over square root of a square plus d square. So this formula is derived in my YouTube channel, particularly the playlist Engineers in Progress. If you want the derivation of this, you just look at it. But actually, you may not use this. You just form right triangles and compute the perpendicular distances, which I also demonstrated in one of the examples in YouTube and in Dagler. Just find that solution and understand that solution. Now, if we have a point, then distance from a point to a plane, that means the shortest distance from a point to a plane, then you just pattern it from this formula, because the general equation of a plane is ax plus by plus cz plus d. Then this extends to ax1 plus by1 plus cz1 plus d all over square root of a square plus b square plus d plus c square. So this is the formula for the distance from a point to a plane. And when say distance, it is understood shortest distance.